Vlog 03, Conjuration. This is going to deal with the time when demons or entities were conjured up by accident or on purpose. Now, to give you the time frame, this was high school age, so about a handful of years ago, quite some time ago. Now, if you're wondering why is there such a time skip since the last vlog to this one, as in like those are more childhood events and now this is like getting to closer to modern time, not full modern time, but you know, a huge skip in between from being like a kid to being a high schooler, is because all the events in between are quite similar and picture the same things happening all throughout, so I don't bore you, I figured I might as well skip. An event I could have mentioned that I forgot to mention on the last one, or just that would happen in between that time frame, was every time when I used to go take a shower, you know, we would have a clear shower curtain where you could see like silhouettes and so on the other side. Anytime I would take a shower, you know, the door would be locked, no one's there, I would see a silhouette of someone standing on the other side, and no, it wasn't a reflection of me either. Someone would be standing on the other side of the curtain, you know, cliche Hollywood antics. So I would move the curtain and I wouldn't see anyone was there. So eventually I got tired of it and I brought my dog with me into the bathroom, and he would be sitting on the floor. And I noticed when I brought my dog in there, the figures stopped appearing. So yeah, again, there's stuff like that. Picture many things like that and all the shadow figures and entities I mentioned before, all between those years. But that's why I'm skipping now to the high school age range, where things became more deliberate from a cause and effect action. Whether it was by accident or intentional, the effect still happened. So that's better than just random events. Okay, high school. I used to play the guitar, or I was teaching myself how to play. I was progressing quite well. You know, I still had lots of ways to go, but I was getting alright and people thought I was alright. But eventually that got shut down and I stopped messing with the guitar, so I'm pretty rusty now and I would need to practice some more. But anyways, you're going to find out why I stopped playing. So I was playing a Jimi Hendrix song. Oh, and also before I go, I almost got ahead of myself. This was during like Bible Thumper action days, so like when I was in high school, although I was still, you know, into conspiracies and, you know, ufology and like the fringe stuff, I was still, you know, predominantly Bible thumping action. And anyone who knew me at that time would know, and like kind of sees the difference now. Well, there's a major difference now, but anyways, so that gives you the context when you might be thinking to yourself, why did he react that way if he's like the madness type of guy now, delving into all types of crazy antics? Why would he? Well, it's because back then it was the Bible thumping days and we were taught to, you know, fear the different spiritual aspects and call everything evil. Okay, that should be enough of a long-winded introduction. Okay, so it was back when I was teaching myself how to play guitar. I was teaching myself how to play a Jimi Hendrix song. It was called Voodoo Child. You probably know it, everyone knows it. And anyways, afterwards, later on, I found out that, you know, Jimi Hendrix was actually into voodoo. So the Voodoo Child melody is actually an actual melody and riff from, you can say, the voodoo lore and connection. But anyways, I didn't know that at the time. I saw Jimi Hendrix as a good guitarist, so if I want to be a good guitar player as well, I should learn how to play Jimi Hendrix songs. And it was one of my favorite songs anyway. So I was playing it, I was learning, teaching myself how to play the riff, and when I finally got like the opening riff down, and it finally, you know, and I finally got it, that's when I heard a boom, you know, the wall just, something banged on the wall. At this moment, like, I jump up out of my seat, I yell, "Run, nigga, run!" And I went running out of my room full speed. I was yelling to my brother because he was in our game room playing Modern Warfare 2. And I went running up the stairs so fast, snatched open the front door, and I was like, "Ah!" I started screaming because there's like this shadow right there at the doorway. I was like, oh my goodness. I thought it was like a horror movie where the monster like can beat you to the location you're running. So it started in my room and somehow it was at the front door as I opened it. But it was just my reflection. And so, I mean, that was pretty embarrassing. But the bang on the wall was totally real. And, like, I thought it was a shadow, but, you know, after further consideration, I literally was just so scared that I screamed at my own reflection. And so then, like, a few nights went by, and I'm laying on my bed. I'm wide awake just thinking about things. I know something in my peripheral vision, and like back in the day, how my room was, I would have my guitar over here, like on this type of wall where I was in my room, and then my bed would be like on this side of the room. And I was sitting there and I saw something in my peripheral, so I turned over, and there's a shadow figure standing right in front of the guitar. Like, it wasn't that tall either. It was like slightly taller than a guitar, and it was an electric guitar, by the way, if you're wondering. But I did practice on acoustic, but it was an electric though. Anyway, and there was no type of reverb going on when the wall did bang, because there's no one else was in the house. You know, there was no type of amps. I was playing it without having an amp connected to it, but anyways, the shadow figure was at the guitar, and it was looking at me, and I looked at it, and I was like, what's going on here? I was like, this is kind of peculiar, but hey, it's nothing new. Let's see where this goes. So I closed my eyes, and then I opened my eyes again, and it got a little bit closer. I was like, oh, interesting. So I closed my eyes, opened them, and it got a little bit closer. Closed my eyes, opened it, and it got a little bit closer. And this just kept on repeating until it was at the edge of my bed. Next thing I know, we're staring eye to eye, just looking into each other's eyes. I mean, it wasn't like we were going to fight, so it wasn't like a stare down. We weren't looking into each other's eyes like we're lovers or something, but no one was breaking eye contact. And then afterwards, I got pulled in. Like, after our contact continued, I got pulled in, and like into this other dimension. That's the best way I can describe it, because I was no longer in my room. I was in some weird other type of world. You know, I was in like this type of waiting area, I want to say like a waiting room, you know, not like a hospital, but it was like this weird room. Like, I can't even, it's hard to describe because it was almost otherworldly, but it has some current world aspects, because there was a chair and like something for me to sit in, and like there's these two individuals that told me to wait, you know, but again, they look really vaguish, you know. They said, wait here, you know, he'll see you in a moment. And then there's an elevator that opened up, and then they took me. But anyways, like, there's two locations that went, because one location they went and they showed me, like, there's two sections. On this side, what you can assume, there's like these, like, the forces of darkness and like stuff like that, and on this side you can assume like it was like the forces of light, and like what you would assume to be like God or the devil. And it was weird, you know, how like, you know, there's like huge scene, you know. And then besides that, you know, next thing I know, I find myself in this courtroom. I'm like, where am I? And like, there's people moving around in this courtroom, and someone comes up to me and says, get ready, you're up, you're gonna be up. I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're gonna have to defend him. And I'm like, defend who? And then he comes walking in, and this is gonna sound weird, and I don't know why this happened, but it is what it is. It was Hitler. Hitler was there, and they're like, you're gonna have to defend him before the court. And like, at the time, I just knew everything they teach you in school to basically tell you about Hitler. You know, I had my own wild, you know, conspiracy theories, you can say, and my own things, because, you know, history is written by the victors. We already know we're drenched in propaganda day in and day out. So just because they say Hitler's the bad guy, or just because they say he did this and that, doesn't mean he did. And let's say even if he did do those things, all I know is I'm in this weird place, and they're telling me I have to defend him like I'm some type of lawyer. So we know even if the person is guilty, lawyers usually still defend them anyway. So I was like, okay, I got this. So I'm in this courtroom, and like, I see like there's Hitler, there's Alexander the Great, there's Genghis Khan, there's all these great conquerors and prominent people of the past, and like even people I don't know, but I could recognize some of them, and like, you just knew who they were, and obviously some of them introduced themselves, or I was told who they were by the one who was advising me. And I had to stand before the court, and I was defending Hitler's case. And like, after I defended his case, talking about like he could have just been fighting the New World Order, you know, we don't know who the true enemy is, you know, from our perspective. And like, and it was a huge case, so I'm not going to bore you with that unless you want me to tell you how the Hitler trial went in this weird sequence, because I wouldn't even consider it a dream, because like I told you, I was wide awake until I looked into this thing's eyes, and after we stared for a while, I was transported into this weird world. Anyways, after I defended Hitler, it was a success, you know, they were pleased with how I defended him, and after that, they took me up on the top of this. We were like in this citadel type of structure. It was this huge tower, and they took me up to the top of the tower, and it was extremely high up. And like below, it almost looked desertish, and I want to say it was rocky. And like they showed me we're high up, and they had me look out to the horizon, and it was a really vast landscape, and they're telling me different things about the earth and like about conquering and reshaping it, and a whole bunch of things. And it was the strangest, weirdest view, you know. And then that was it. So that was what happened from playing Voodoo Child and Jimi Hendrix riff on the guitar, you know. So afterwards, oh yeah, how did I stop playing guitar? Well, obviously at the time, this was, like I said, it was back in the high school days. Later on, when we saw our parents, we told them about how like there's this huge bang. You know, my brother and we're explaining the situation. You know, we're kind of laughing at them, but you know, still, you know. So my mom was like, "Oh, you're not playing any more evil songs in my house. Do not play any evil demonic music, or I'm taking your guitar." And you know, but you know, the only type of music I like playing, you know, AC/DC, you know, Ozzy, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, and like a whole bunch of different stuff and other metal. And like I wanted to learn like the old school before I got to the new school type of stuff, and like that type of stuff would be deemed evil. So like it just made me so jaded because I couldn't play the songs I wanted to play, so I just stopped playing the guitar. And I was in high school still, so I really couldn't. You know, obviously if I continued to play, my guitar would have been taken anyway, and like it's a long story, you know. So it just had me stop playing guitar at that time. So that's how some shadow demon creature from voodoo music appeared and looked me in the eyes and transported me to some weird world, showing me different factions, and then had me defending Hitler in a courtroom with great leaders and conquerors, and then taking me on top of a citadel to show me this vast stretch of land and telling me different plots and plans and a whole bunch of weirdness. Okay, so we'll fast forward to another event. Now we'll fast forward to around 2011 time period. My one friend, he wanted to use the Ouija board, and at this time, you know, now we're 2011. You know, I've been stopped going to church, and I stopped doing stuff like that whenever I turned 18. And I was been searching for my own path and looking for truth because I was always never really allowed to question, you know. As a kid, you know, you can't really question the Bible. They'll say, oh, you can't do that, and they shut down the inquiring mind. And things are taboo, and I wasn't having that. And then we're getting closer to, like, obviously the Bible didn't match my worldviews, so, you know, but still, you know, when it came to something like Ouija board, that's always been ingrained, you know, like they say, old habits die hard. To me, that was always ingrained as the ultimate taboo. But again, this is at the time period when I was starting to try other things, and I was like, and my friend was like trying to convince me, saying, "Hey, man, we really gotta use this Ouija board. You never know what could happen. We can find out answers." So we're trying to find out solutions too, because we already been awake to the whole, you know, powers that be, Illuminati conspiracies, you know, the globalists, the bankers, all of that. We were awake to that, and we're trying to find different solutions of, you know, what we could do. And one of his things like, why don't we try a Ouija board and see what we can find? And so I was really hesitant at first, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, I was like, whatever, what do I, you know, I got nothing to lose anyway. So I went to use it, and it was me, him, another friend, and another guy. And I'm not going to reveal names to the sake of privacy and whatnot. Maybe I'll come up with some random names as I go, so it won't just be like person A, person B, person C, you know. But so we pull out this Ouija board, and we're asking it questions and all this type of stuff. And like, at first it's not really like, I'm like, does this thing know what we don't know? Does it like how is, you know, how serious is this? Is he just pulling my leg? Later on, you know, I ended up getting, you know, I did some more experiments, but earlier, this is my first time using it, so I was like, just taking it in, and I believe he was high when he used it, and I was like, oh, come on, man. I was like, you can't be doing that, you know, not because I care, but just because I want everyone to be serious and have like a focus intent on it. But so we're messing around using it, asking it different questions, and it's saying things, And I'm like, eh, and like your hands on a play and it's moving all around the board, going crazy. And then it gets up off the board, and like we're following it across the room and like walking all around. I'm like, okay, this is such a joke. Yeah, I was like, he's probably pulling my leg and BSing me anyway. So I'm like, okay, he wants to be playing with me. I'm gonna play with him too. So we're using it and whatnot, and then out of nowhere, I changed my voice to act like, something was possessing me or something, and just started like talking real serious. And at this moment, he jumps up out of the board and he's like, nah, 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 and he goes running out the room, out the house, and starts running down the street. Like, we're at our friend's house, and he just starts running down the road, and we're like, wow, do you see this guy? We're like, okay, we gotta go after him. We gotta tell him I was just messing around. And we go outside, and when we go out there to see where he's running, he's just running down the street. But I look behind him, I see these huge, 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 tall shadow figures. These things are like what you picture probably a Nephilim, or like bigger than Goliath. These things are like Nephilim size, like giants. These shadows are like creepily walking behind where he's at. I'm like, what's going on? And like, when we called up to him eventually, he stopped running. He came to we were. He was telling us he saw these huge shadow figures behind us when we were outside, so that's why he was running. So little did we know we were both seeing shadow figures. We were seeing these huge, tall giants behind him, and he was seeing it behind us. And like, who knows why they came there? Even though it was just like a joke. And anyways, when we got back to it, our one friend, and we're messing with the board, like another entity came up on there and said that it was draining our friend's energy. And like, we already looked over at where he was at, and this guy was like passing out. He can't even stay awake, and just like, we thought he was about to be toasted. But he didn't. Anyways, we didn't really hear any too much like crazy information with that. The biggest thing was like those shadow figures, because regardless if someone was pranking each other, like, I don't know why we saw these huge shadows figures behind him and why he saw it behind us. I'm talking, these things were like the size of trees, and they weren't trees either. It was nighttime, but you can easily see outside as well, and like, they are distinct figures. On that board, we did end up talking to something allegedly called Satan, but that's a whole nother story. But because also, like, when we did get back to it, I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. Let's stop dancing around the subject. If this is like, oh, is it a ghost? Where'd you die? Where'd you do this? Nope. I was like, I'm tired of playing these games. Like, if this thing's real, let's call out, the biggest, baddest thing I can think of. And like, obviously, coming from a Judeo-Christian background, you're gonna think of Satan. So like, on the spot, I came up with some weird little rhyme. Like, I don't even know where it came from. And I said some rhyme that ended with, talking about like Lucifer, the bearer of light. And it came out of nowhere. It was completely winged. I probably can't even recite it for you right now unless I really thought about it. And I don't even know if I should, because who knows if it's like a real incantation for it or not. But so we ended up talking to some alleged Satan, and he was telling us different things. But before that happened, also another entity like came up was saying the reason why the Ouija board wasn't working at that time was because we had to give it permission to work, and give it permission to be stronger, because apparently like there are certain prayers, like obviously I'll say most of our families had like Christian backgrounds anyway, so you can say there's prayer warriors or people trying to put up hedges of protection, and like I said, you have to give us permission to be able to act more. But I can make it probably a whole series with actual Ouija board events. 'Cause I've seen someone become possessed, like literally possessed, straight out of a movie. But that was years from this event. But I just want to focus on this one to tell you about the time of like things getting summoned and conjured up. That shadow that was summoned via the voodoo, and then like these big tall giants that were summoned from the Ouija board. But like I said, let me see. Yeah, I've been already talking for, looks like 19 minutes, so I'll wrap it up here. The next video might be a more heavier, darker subject if I cover it, because the future one is dealing with modern era Ouija board action. So that's like the Muscle Dragon, Dragon Star, Alchemy, current mindset, past few year action, till now when I set up some Ouija board things. But before we get to that was when I ended up getting to an all-time low period. That was kind of around the same time, this Ouija board action, that I saw the world for what it really was. And like I said, because I came from a Judeo-Christian background, and I realized that the God of this world wasn't doing much for this planet, and I didn't agree with his ideals, I was like, okay, well then let me see what the opposite team has to offer. And that led me to the time that I tried to sell my soul to the devil. That's an interesting experience, and I might tell you about how that went down, because that's pretty interesting. And it was hard to mention these stories as well, because these events kind of correlated to that moment, especially with some of those events, like with the Citadel, and because they're kind of like in between, and like I've been to those areas before, so, well, afterwards you can say, so it's hard to keep things. But anyways, so the next one coming up will either be the time I sold the time I tried to sell my soul to the devil, and followed by that will be some more Ouija stories and possession. But these Ouija stories will be more detailed and accurate, because I want to keep them separate from actual the summoning videos of this one. So I've been going on way too long, and we'll end it here. If you like what you see, stick around to find out more, and also give me your opinions in the comments below. Did you ever have any weird times and you accidentally summoned an entity and it came to you, or was there any times when you intentionally summoned an entity, like in these videos? And what do you think about stuff like that? And let me know. So if you liked it, give it a like, or subscribe if you want to hear more. And I definitely want to hear your opinion, because the more heads are better than one when it comes to figuring out what's going on this plane. Alright, peace.